Yes. Ladies and gents, welcome back to another episode of the Deep Dive. This is episode, well, it depends what you're listening to, actually. If you're watching this on YouTube, technically it's episode 10. If you're accessing the audio through the From Bromley with Love website, then technically for you it's episode 3. But either way, whichever part of the journey you are on, welcome back to the Deep Dive. As ever, I'm Mashal St. Patrick Hewitt, and with me in situ, also as ever, is Cole and Pete, as we look to do what the title says, deep dive on all things Bromley. Since the last time you saw us, Bromley have picked up 6 points from 9. We last recorded after Bristol Rovers when Bromley won. Wait, did we win? We won that game, didn't we? Yeah, 1-0 at home. We won it 1-0. And so many games. Since then, we went to Newport and won 1-0 in a very ugly encounter. Won by a Corey Whiteley superb goal 2 minutes from time. We then beat Colchester in a end-to-end basketball match at home with who scored the winner in that match? Kabamba, of course. And then at the time of recording, I have now recovered, having arrived just after midnight. Arrived after midnight, and then the clocks went forward. From Barrow, where Bromley lost 2-1 in probably, I'd say, their worst performance of the season, and putting an end to the 21-game unbeaten run. And of course, football, Bromley put together a 21-game unbeaten run, unable to be beaten by anybody until we played last place in the league away from home. Of course, that's when the run was going to end. But gents, let's get straight into it. Let's start with the end of the 21-game unbeaten run. There was quite a lot. There was 149 fans at Barrow yesterday, and most of us, well, so certainly the people I spoke to on the way out of the ground were like, you know what? Thank God that run's come to an end. And at least now that weight's off their shoulder, having to try and keep that run going and so on and so forth. Where do you stand on that? Pete, I'll come to you first. Are you, in a weird way, are you glad that run's now over?
Yeah, I suppose it's going to come to an end eventually, and it's embarrassing that it comes against the team that's bottom of the league if you look at it in terms of just pure league table places. But I think anyone who knows what it's like to be down at the bottom end of the table, how hard teams are fighting just to not get dragged down into the National League. Because if you get back down into that National League, it could be a decade before you're even in the conversation for getting back up again. So the fight among those bottom teams, as probably have seen with Newport and various others they've played against, is the Bromley were out fought yesterday, and they piled a lot of their own problems on themselves as well. But it's not as easy as saying Bromley were beaten by the bottom of the league, but they lost rightly. It was deserved, and I think if you're going to lose, your record, then they did everything possible to deserve to lose it.
Definitely. Cole, where do you stand on that? Are you kind of glad I was about to say the monkey's off our back, but it's not a monkey. You know what I mean, though? Are you kind of glad that it certainly takes a lot of attention off us? I think
it does.
Or some attention off us, I should say.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, definitely. I think we needed possibly a little reset, and hopefully, with every poor performance we put in this year, there's not been many. The response has always been very positive in the next game. So you kind of hope that's what we'll see at Barnet on Good Friday.
Yeah, and it's almost a weird blessing that it is Barnet next, and it's not a relegation side or relegation threatened side or something like that. We almost need a hard game next to There's no time to rest. The mind must resharpen again. Make no mistake, Barnet away is going to be a difficult game, but that may just be what they need. If we focus on because like I say, since the last time we recorded, we didn't just play Bristol Rovers. We didn't just play Barrow yesterday. We also played Newport and Colchester. Looking at those fixtures, Newport away, Colchester at home, Barrow away, we took 6 from 9. What would you have wanted before that? Pete, sorry, you go there for that one.
I mean, six from 9 doesn't sound so bad, does it? I mean, when you sort of think about it across a season, that'll do you all right points wise, which is probably actually where Bromley are roughly. If you know that ratio is probably where they are. But in the 4 games since we last spoke, Bromley are on a similar pattern to the games before that. They've been averaging about 1 goal a game, but the Bromley play usually in normal circumstances, 1 goal is enough. They'll just block you out for the rest of the game, frustrate you, and grind over the line. And if they don't grind over the line, they'll at least get a draw. But yesterday, it was, you know, they run out of luck. Essentially, they weren't playing their best and they got punished. So the run is over in terms of the undefeated run, but they are still on the same trajectory of 1 goal per game. It's just they need to get back to being able to see that out.
Yeah, Cole, if you include the Bristol Rovers game, it's 9 from 12 with 2 goals conceded in those 4 games. And as Pete says, up until yesterday, 1 goal was all we needed really to win the game. And to be fair to the side, at half time, because I did an update on Instagram at half time and kind on the From Problem with Love Instagram channel and basically said, yep, we've got the goal ahead. I'd be shocked if we lose from here. but the general pattern of Bromley this season has been once you give us a goal lead, you're going to have to go some to try and take the 3 points. So I think I was well within my rights at half time to go, this isn't very good. But you've made the cardinal mistake of letting Bromley take the lead, right? So do you kind of look at Barrow yesterday, Colin, go, in the grand scheme of things, it's a blip? Or does it make you worried ahead of the 6 remaining games?
A little concerned, but not just by Barrow. I think the performance at Newport, we were very lucky to get 3 points from that game. That wasn't vintage Bromley by any means. A lot better against Colchester, and then obviously yesterday was some concern. I shared your opinion at half time. We were 1-0 up. I thought we'll get at least a point out of this. We weren't playing well, but you don't see us conceding 2 goals to anybody really. What was going on? But we could have let 4 in. All right, so yeah, I think we could have let 4 in the second half. There was one chance the guy missed when he was 1-on-1 with Grant. Yeah, I'm a little concerned. I think it's all about the next game. It's what we do at Barnet, really.
Yeah, and it's worth pointing out, as Pete says. So who's beaten us this season? Oldham beat us 1-0. Cambridge beat us 2-1. Swindon beat us 2-0. Obviously, Barrow just beat us 2-1. Who's the 15? Walsall. Yeah, I think that's the last time we conceded 2 or more goals, basically. Well, not the last time, you know. I mean, that Walsall beat us 3-1. And on the whole, I think I'd need to go back and double check. But after each of those defeats, I think we've got back to winning ways pretty quickly afterwards, right? Interestingly enough, post-match in Andy's interview with Matt, Andy, first time I've heard him say it on record that he's actually formally said a number, right? Obviously, he's got Project Champions in his head. I think us 3 have got Project Top 3 in our heads. But he said yesterday, I genuinely believe 85 points is enough to get automatic promotion, which means 2 wins from the remaining 6 games. Where do you stand on that, Pete? 85?
I mean, it makes sense. And if that's the number they're targeting as sort of a minimum, because obviously they've got the Project Champions thing going on. 85 probably isn't going to be champions. 85 probably just, you know, is a safety net in terms of getting automatic promotion. So I think if you want to be champions, you've got to pass the sort of 90 threshold, I would say, would be my estimation. But I think they've got their sights set on 85, and I can't see why they couldn't do it. Injuries, the only thing that's going to stop them is injuries and them shooting themselves in the foot.
Was 85 your number before the game, Cole?
Yeah, it's been for a while. Yeah, I'm thinking 85 would get us up. in the top three.
If
I
you
kind of
go on, sorry, carry on.
there's the gap between us and fourth has been, the thing that I've been looking at for the last month or so, really, making sure that we've already got 7 at the moment.
I think though that because again, just speaking to people coming out of the game yesterday, there were a few people going, "Oh, Notts County won," and I'm intrigued to see what you two think about this. And I said to fans that I'm not particularly bothered that Notts County won, and my theory was this: okay, Notts County won, which moves them into the top 3, although Cambridge have a game in hand on them. So I think it currently stands as Bromley on 79, MK Dons on 74, County on 73, Cambridge on 72, and then Swindon and Salford, I think, are both on 70. So when you look at that just in raw information, you see, oh, there's 9 points between the top 6. So it looks tight. But the way I reflected on County's victory yesterday was I was like, that puts pressure on MK Dons and Cambridge. Because for the first time in a while, MK Dons and Cambridge now need to look behind them. And don't get me wrong, so do we. But I think County's win and potentially Salford be MK Dons. Salford beat MK Dons 1-0.
Yeah.
Those wins dragged MK Dons and Cambridge back into the playoff mix. It means everyone inches up closer to us as well. But I just wonder if that puts a tad more pressure on the other sides to feel like, oh my God, we have to win now. Bromley, rightly or wrongly, whether people think it's the right or wrong way to look at it, we actually still have a buffer. And I'm not advising the team to do this, but we actually still have a buffer where we could afford to lose a game. And I think fans just need to maybe realize that, yes, County are closer, but that's to MK Dons and Cambridge first and foremost before it applies to us. Or Cole, I'll go to you first. Or should we not be looking at it like that?
No, I think you're right. I think Cambridge and MK Dons have dropped more points than us recently. So that does definitely put them under pressure. They're not going to look forward to playing us. And equally, they know that there's teams behind them with momentum. We've only got, we'll get something out of that. But they should be possibly more concerned than we are because they've got less points than us.
Pete, if you look at so MK Dons have lost their last 2 games, home to Barnet, away at Salford. Dons still have to play. Of their last 6, they have, I'm picking out just 2 fixtures here. They have Oldham away, and Bromley at home, Crewe away. I'm just going to pick out anybody that anyone's got left who are playoff teams or above, right? So 3 of their last 6 are against teams in like the top 8. Notts County have Salford away, Cambridge away, Barnet, if they're still in the mix, at home. Cambridge have Barnet away, Salford at home, Walsall away, MK Dons at home. Oh, sorry, ignore that. Sorry, I was looking at their results. Sorry. Cambridge have Swindon at home, Notts County at home, Bromley away, Grimsby at home, Crewe away. That's a flipping hard run for Cambridge. Yeah. And just for argument's sake, I'll look at Salford, who I think have more upward momentum than Swindon. Salford have Notts County at home, Crewe away, Oldham away, Bromley at home, and then Crawley on the last day, which could mean anything for Crawley, right? So I think my synopsis from that, Pete, is I'd rather be in Bromley's position where you technically say to yourself, 2 more wins might do it from 6. But I think it's fair to say week by week, there are plenty of, I don't see any of those fixtures as you can guarantee or call who's going to win and what's going to happen. I think there's plenty of twists and turns for our competitors, never mind us having to take care of our business.
Yeah, and I think much as Bromley will be kicking themselves for some of the results, or some of the games that have looked easier on paper that they haven't got 3 points out of, the teams around them will be doing exactly the same thing. There'll be games that they would have been looking at on paper, circling that as we can have something there, and have not done it. And the thing that keeps drawing my eye is the game that Cambridge have in hand, because they're that's the. I think once everyone's level on games, I don't know when or where Cambridge make that game up, but
it's on the 21st of April
so
against
it's a while away.
Grimsby, so 3 from the end.
Yeah, so that could play a part, but listening to Cambridge's run-in, they're currently 7 points behind Bromley, so let's call that 2 wins and a draw that they would have to earn, whilst Bromley are throwing away 2 wins and the similar amount of points. Much as Bromley had an off day yesterday, I don't see that becoming a trend. So I can see them still grinding out draws, still grinding out wins, and that they're going to be very hard for Cambridge, even with the game in hand, to catch up. And the other teams are going to drop points as well. They all have difficult run-ins. It's just, I think we would all like it to be done and dusted after the Shrewsbury game, so that there's going into that difficult last 4 games. You just sort of want it to be like, go for Project Champions. And if you don't get it, you don't get it, because it's already pretty much done and dusted. That would be the ideal situation.
Yeah.
But that only comes, I think, with a good result against Barnet and Shrewsbury. Otherwise, I think it's going to go.
Out of interest, what is a good result against Barnet and Shrewsbury for you?
3 points from both.
Oh.
Setting the bar high. Because I have a funny feeling that after yesterday, I think Andy Woodman played it quite cool on the camera, and he seemed like it wasn't getting to him. I would be surprised if he hasn't, if not gone off at them in a big way. I would be surprised if he's not having some very quiet words in ears saying, that's not up. If you want to carry on at this level, then that's not going to be acceptable. So, because it was, you were there. Was it a collective head loss, or was it sort of one mistake led to another mistake, led to another mistake, and players trying too hard to make up for their mistakes and then making further mistakes? Because from what I've seen in bits and bobs, it looks like one mistake led to another mistake, led to another mistake, and everyone's just kind of collectively feeding off of each other's sort of bad vibe.
Yeah, so what I would say is that, and I think yesterday's game was a really good example of how watching a game live is different to watching it on TV. You kind of just got a better sense for things as even as simplistic as being in the ground and seeing what the wind was doing versus what you think it's doing on TV, right? In hindsight, and obviously I've just written the good, bad, and ugly. Haven't yet look at, but at the time of everyone watching or listening to this, it should be up, or maybe, I don't know. But in hindsight, Bromley failed to take advantage of the little bit of the wind that they had in the first half, right? And my major critique of yesterday was that we spent too long going direct, right? When the wind is heavily in your favor, unless your direct balls are accurate, it's just going to go out of play. So if you go back and watch what we did in the first half, I lost track of how many times the balls rolled out of play because there was no accuracy to what we were doing. Now, obviously, it's almost like it was almost like a cricket game, right? Where a side gets to bowl or bat first and get a feel for what the wicket's doing for when their turn comes, right? And when Barrow came out, I just think they were like, right, Bromley had a half to try and work out what to do on this, and they fluffed their lines. They only got 1 goal, and it had to be a worldie to get it. And if you note for the second half, how many times do you remember Barrow going long in the second half? They basically kept the ball on the deck. And Andy said at full time, the players went away from the script. Now, I wasn't in the changing room. I'd love to know what that script was. But dare I say the script might have been, lads, it's really windy out there. The long ball against the wind may not actually work. in these conditions. And you would have seen on TV, for those watching it on TV, how many times when the ball went to our defense, they misjudged it in the wind, couldn't win first contact, couldn't win the duels. When clearances came, everyone was panicking. And what I sensed from the terrace to the pitch is that before Barrow scored, we were getting away with it, right? And then once Barrow scored, I just sensed there was a collective panic set in. And you started to see it in the clearances got worse. People started getting the ball and just hurriedly just kicking it. Not even really kicking it to anyone, just kicking it. And that led to, like, when Barrow scored their second, you know, in football, when you're sensing the momentum and you know it's coming, like we could sense on the terrace for in the away end for about 10 minutes, like Barrow going to score again. Like you can see it's coming, right? And I just think it felt like it turned into a bit of the yips where nobody felt like they could get control of the ball. So in response to that, all of their decision making was hurried. And I don't know how that managed to spread quickly collectively through the side. The thing that I think disappointed me most was that nobody took ownership of what was going on. Like I didn't really see anybody be like, lads, like what the hell's going on out here? Like let's take a moment. Let's get to grips with what's going on. And I think what was noticeable is that the only player I think on the pitch who at times was able to just get the ball down and, you know, try and beat a press and play a simple pass was Ashley Charles. He was the only one I think that, and he didn't even have his best game, but he was the only one I can remember actually trying to maybe just slow things down a bit and look for simplistic passing. So it felt like a collective head loss from the team, which quickly spread through everyone. But Cole, it brings me to a question. Because whilst that's what I think the case was in the game in the second half, something that did happen in the second half, which I've included in my write-up, is on 63 minutes, Denanga was taken off for George Evans. And I need to pick my words carefully here. Let me be more diplomatic. First and foremost, congratulations to George Evans, another academy graduate, to get a first team start for Bromley. So well done to the youngster. What I would say, though, is that if Andy chooses to start with Denanga, you then can't take him off, because it's not his fault that Michael Cheek is now injured. But our only striking option off the bench can't be George Evans. And I mean that with the greatest of respects to George. But in the cut and thrust, as we go down to the end of the season, I would rather us start with one up front and know we can use Denanga, then start with two. You've effectively rolled the dice at the beginning of the match. So if it doesn't work, what then is your option? And obviously George Evans is the option, but like I say, with the greatest respect to George Evans, that shouldn't really be the option we've got at this point of the season. We can't do anything. So Kader is injured, Michael Cheek is injured. And whether people don't like it when we play one up front alone, circumstances for me dictate that that's what we're going to have to do to give ourselves greater tactical flexibility off the bench, rather than rolling the dice at the beginning. Am I reading that wrong, Cole?
No, I've read it the same. I thought it was a hell of a situation to throw George Evans into for a Bromley debut. It was because, you know, when they brought him on, we were under the cosh, right? We lost the momentum. They'd scored one goal, and basically we were struggling to get the ball out of our half for quite a long spell. And I thought that's some situation to throw someone who's making their debut into. I think maybe one up front and then go to two with Denanga as the second option is probably how we're going to have to go from now on. Definitely. I thought we missed Thompson as an option.
Yeah,
where if we'd have had someone to play yesterday, but obviously I take it Thompson's injured as well. Yeah, I see it the same. I thought it was one hell of a debut to give to somebody when you're basically like go on for 25 minutes and try and do something. Is in that situation, in those conditions, that's a tough baptism.
Most definitely. Pete, any differing view on that?
Reading your preview, I agreed with what the premise that you set out. You set it out even then that it doesn't give you anywhere to go if you start with 2. And so I was surprised to see that. I can understand it because it was 4-4-2 against 4-4-2 or something along those lines. So match up and try and try and outgun them. But yeah, gives you nowhere to go. And George Evans was put on, I think, with the hope that there would be some sort of headline written, debut goal saves the day. It's stranger things have happened, but at this point in the season, I think it highlights where Bromley are in terms of their injuries and lack of squad depth. I mean, but there's I feel sorry for them because there's nothing else that they really could be doing. They haven't got the budget to have another striker on the payroll. It's just they have to make do and mend. I bet that rather they weren't having to make do and mend at the last hurdle, but it's probably better to be making do and mend at the last hurdle when it's all still in your hands than earlier on in the season when things are starting to get good, and then have your flow interrupted and then fall out of the running. Well, they're right at the head of the running rail. They just got to find a way, and they're going to have to keep doing that because the injuries aren't going anywhere. And you know what? They're probably going to pick up 1 or 2 more as well. It's just that time of the season. So it's just going to have to find a way to grind it out. I think that's one reason why I think Project Champions is a bit far-fetched, because I just don't, unless players are going to start playing out their skins, and I just don't think Bromley have the depth to be able to go and go and go and go again and keep getting mad results. So yeah, but George Evans, I think, is symptomatic of where Bromley are with that at the moment.
Yeah, I like what you said there about, and I think it's a really nice signpost to people listening to this that, okay, yeah, yesterday was pretty horrid to watch, but we are just going to have to scrap our way to these final, however many. If it is 6 points, I think every fan should just accept who really cares about how we do it. Just do it. I think it's basically what I'm getting at here, because by my reckoning, we currently have Jesse Deborah out. I don't think we might, based on the fact I saw him leaving a boot against Colchester. I'm not hopeful that we see him before the season is done. Although I'd love Bromley to sign him whatever league we're in next season. Right, Michael Cheek. It seems like we won't see him before the end of this season. I'd love it to happen, but my gut tells me we're not going to see him. Right. Ben Thompson, I don't know what the injury is. We really need him back as an option, as a goal-scoring threat, an option. LaCarl Samuel, I don't know what the situation is there. Is he injured? I don't know. Dare I say, if he was fit, he'd be on the bench. Carl Cameron is out as well. Sol Kader, who would probably be the backup striker in this situation if he was fit, would be there. So that's 6 players who we cannot use as things are right now. And for as Pete says, for a club the size of Bromley, we can't afford to have 6 players that we can't use, because it means that our options are limited in terms of who we can start with and what we can do. And like I say, it's the business end of the season. So even if there's arguments that people have about, this person could do with the rest and X, Y, Z, I hear that. But at this point in the season, you got to go with who your best 11 are, regardless, whether they need a rest or not, or they'll come off after 65 minutes. But you have to start with what on paper is technically your best 11, and trust that 9 times out of 10, like they have done for the majority of the season, that they will find a way by hook or crook to get you over the line. Cole, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think you put your strongest team out for every game, even if they're playing on fumes. Try and get it won as early as you can. And we look comfortable. Or basically play your strongest team until we've got the 6 points we need, and then put your feet up after that. I'm not bothered about the title. Honestly, just want to finish in the top 3, get the points that guarantees us going up, and then see what shape the squad's in at that point.
Pete, let's assume that our starting formation. I'm not as big a fan of the 3-5-2 as some are. I think 3-5-2 does protect Marcus Eiffel better. I will agree that, but I'm not as a big a fan of it as I would. If it came down to 3-5-2 or 4-2-3-1, I feel like 3-5-2 inhibits Mitchell Pinnock, but protects Marcus Eiffel. If it was up to me, I think at this point of the season, you go to your tried and trusted. And tried and trusted this season has been 4-2-3-1. Yeah. So if that is our tried and trusted, Pete, who is in your 4-2-3-1? Because there's an argument in my head to start Carl Jenkinson against Barnet, but I just want to, because if it's about gritting and grinding it, then I'm actually inclined to say, you know what, Carl, experience and grit and grind is what we need right now. So, what's your starting team for a 4-2-3-1?
I mean, we saw Carl Jenkinson start a few weeks ago. I think we had Carl Jenkinson on 1 week. Was it Accrington maybe? Carl Jenkinson on at right back, and Medley at left back to try and give a bit of rest to I think Eiffel and Idris. And it was a poor first half because Bromley weren't really creating anything, which is understandable because those guys on the out wide, they're not necessarily known for their attacking prowess. They're sort of defense first, attack second. Whereas Eiffel and perhaps even Idris, maybe not Idris, but they are sort of attack first, defend second. Idris maybe not. It doesn't fit that mold. Playing 3 at the back, ironically, Bromley's perhaps where Bromley have the most depth in their squad this season is at that centre-back position. Because I think they loaded up at the start of the season thinking they were going to play a 3 and then switch down to a 2, which has given them a bit more depth. But I still wouldn't switch back to it at this point. I would stick with the 4. And you know what? I wouldn't be... I'd be tempted to go with Carl Jenkinson on right back for at least the half and see how it goes, sort of like they did at Accrington. And if it's not working, then switch it up again and catch Barnet napping at half time with a injection of pace. But I think you just kind of got to try and lock it down after such a bad performance. It's maybe just a back to basics kind of thing, which is what Andy Woodman often preaches when things are going a bit AWOL. It's just, back to basics. Let's do the simple things right and then go from there. So, but I think, another player who's hot and cold, Ben Crowhouse, where does he feature in, at the moment with Ben Thompson out, I think he's kind of got to play unless you go with the robust dogs of war in midfield.
That's a point. Yeah.
Because again, that's possibly something Bromley were missing yesterday is some, the dogs of war trio, but the same problem. If you go with the dogs of war as a trio, it doesn't leave you anywhere to go from the bench. If they start to tie, you probably haven't got the depth to be able to bring anyone else on. So I think they're kind of locked into playing one of Hondermark or Jude with Ashley Charles, and then playing these sort of more attacking 3 ahead of them. And I think they.
But who is your? That's what I was all going to ask you. Who's your? Assuming Ben Thompson's not ready yet, what is your attacking 3?
It would be as is. It would be Pinnock, Crowhouse, and Corey. It has to be really. And behind them, I would start with. I would probably start with. Depends on the opposition, but Charles and Hondermark for me have the best kind of
synergy,
the yin and yang. in as much as they could. Charles is good at what he does, and Hondermark can do multiple things and crash the box. Whereas Jude, not so much of a box crasher, not so much of an eye for goal, but no one can ever question his, he'll go into every tackle and give you everything. So, but I think maybe as it stands, Hondermark and Charles is a better pairing just in terms of how they complement each other. And then Kabamba up top on his own, and Denanga if you need him.
I personally agree with that, but let me just throw a little spanner in the works here. Is there, Cole, an argument to say, I can't believe I'm about to suggest it, but Corey Whiteley on the bench and Brooklyn Ilunga starts? Now, I don't know which one of him or Pinnock you then put on the right, but I just wonder, Brooklyn's not had many minutes recently, and I'm more looking at it from a freshness perspective than a Corey was really good when he came. Who did he come off the bench against? Oh, was it not Newport? He came off the bench to win the game. Did he come off the bench to win that, or was he already starting? And I feel like he came off the bench on 60 and then won the game.
Yeah, half time or something. Yeah.
I just wonder, given Brooklyn's limited minutes in the last month or so, if we should unleash him. And what I like about Brooklyn is I trust Brooklyn's defensive capacity. So we're not losing anything defensively if you put Brooklyn in. But with Brooklyn in, you're just asking a different question of the opposition. Because Brooklyn will always, when he gets the ball, go, I'm going to take you on the outside. Can you stop me? And it just gives Bromley just a different dimension to what we do. You can question his end product, but again, with Brooklyn, at least you're getting right. Give Brooklyn the ball. He's at least going to stretch them, like take us up the pitch and stretch them. That's what I hated against Barrow yesterday. And what I think in my verdict that I did at Lancaster Station, I said right at the end, we missed Michael Cheek today. And the reason why I said that, I never explained it really, but the reason why I said it is because Cheek would have got us up the pitch yesterday. Yeah. He would have drawn about 15 fouls. Yeah. And got us up the pitch and just killed the tempo a bit. And I'm just wondering if we need someone in the team who drags Bromley up the pitch. I don't know. I'm spitballing, but what do you reckon?
Yeah, I'd like to see more of Brooklyn on the pitch. Definitely. It'd be interesting to hand them a start. I don't know if I'd do it at Barnet. I definitely would consider doing it for Shrewsbury. And I like to see Damola get more chances on the pitch as well, because I think he's got that something that we don't always have, where it's a player who gets the ball and pushes forward and people go, oh, we've had them in the past, like your Louis Dennis's and players like that. They get the ball and you think, oh, what's he going to do? This, everybody's up and looking. I'd like both of them to feature more going in. I think we need to put, and I think we've probably struggled to do that on occasions in the last few weeks, so that would be good to see. I would possibly bring Brooklyn on against Barnet, but I would definitely start him against Shrewsbury.
Pete,
I agree entirely. However, I don't. The one thing Corey Whiteley gives, if he playing on the same side as Marcus Eiffel, is he gives him a bit of defensive cover, which I don't think you're going to get that if you play Brooklyn ahead of him. I just don't think he has the experience to know where to be and when to be at the right time to be able to give Marcus the kind of cover he needs and the advice he needs as well, because Corey Whiteley's played sort of in a right back or right wing backy kind of role, and so he knows the position, and I can see him all constantly talking to Marcus Eiffel, just in terms of and berating him as well when he gets caught out of position, saying you're too far forward, or you should tuck in here. You're not going to get that with Brooklyn. So you could switch it up and play Mitchell Pinnock in front of him, but I think it's going to be the same problem. They've not played together this season on that flank particularly, so you're going to throw Marcus in at the deep end. So if you do go with Brooklyn, then you perhaps would want a Carl Jenkinson, someone who doesn't need telling where to be. Someone just sort of can figure their own stuff out, and also someone who can get up and down, but doesn't need to get up and down. You can just be there to support Brooklyn for a little 1-2. So in that sense, it could really work. And again, same with Demola. He has started games and perhaps started the wrong games. I think he started against Newport, and that's a baptism of fire for a young guy from Tottenham. But we've seen what he can do. So, I mean, I don't know if did he come on yesterday, Demola?
Yeah, he came on 7. Who did he come on for? 73 minutes for. I want to say Eiffel. Let me just look at my notes.
Yeah, he did, because Corey dropped back to right back.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So at that point, that's a bit of a Hail Mary kind of, please get us on the ball kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, starting him, Demola, maybe not, but I think Brooklyn no longer has earned a shot, but I think you have to change the team to accommodate him. And yeah, if they were going to bring Carl Jenkinson in, assuming Carl Jenkinson has the fitness in him, because I know he's been injured recently, so depending on where he is in terms of his recovery and his ability to get through 90 minutes or a significant period of the game, I mean, maybe start with Carl Jenkinson and Brooklyn cutting in from the right, and then switch to Eiffel and Corey as a sort of second half substitution pairing, just to add fresh legs to that right wing. So it could work. In my head, it works. That doesn't always mean it works in the real world.
I think the thing that we can all agree on, regardless, is that Brooklyn deserves more than a 3-minute cameo at the end of a match. I think that's the one thing where we can all kind of agree on. Listen, gents, I'm going to wrap this one up. I'm going to wrap it up with a bit of controversy. So, if you've managed, everyone, to stick through this whole episode, I wrote this down before and I said, am I going to address it? In my head, I was always going to address this come the end of the season. But if the deep dive is what it purports to be, then we should address it. There are rumours amongst the Bromley fan base that we could see Andy Woodman leave come the end of the season. Now, Andy Woodman is probably watching this episode, as is possibly Robin Stanton, as is possibly Mark Caverns. I am just the conduit for things that people have come to me to say. I want to go on record as saying, people, that I have no knowledge of anything around this, but I've heard all the discussions, so I think it's only fair that we bring it to the Deep Dive studio and have the conversation. Depending on who you speak to, people seem to be convinced that because Northampton Town have not appointed a manager and have made it very clear that they do not intend to appoint a manager until the season is over. I think there was a recent statement where they said, even if we get relegated, our budget's to get straight back up to League One and we're going to appoint a new manager in the summer. Everyone has put two and two, a lot of people, have put 2 and 2 together and said, well, hold on a minute. Before Northampton appointed Kevin Nolan, I don't know if people remember, the bookies had Andy Woodman as the favourite back then. Bookies do not put somebody as a favourite for a manager's job unless something is happening. Doesn't necessarily mean the manager wants it. Doesn't necessarily mean that there's been any kind of tapping up or something, but someone knows something. That's why you end up as the favourite to the bookies for a manager's job. I remember at the time that Andy went as low as 1-1 at some point in that the last time Northampton had a vacancy. Anyways, he went to Kevin Nolan. Northampton now have a vacancy again. And there's Bromley fans saying, why would Andy go? If Andy does go, why would Andy go? Northampton ain't this, they ain't that. If we're in League One, they'd be in League Two. What's the point? So I just want to go on record as saying, first and foremost, Northampton are a bigger football club than Bromley. Once upon a time, before I was even born, Northampton even got to the top division in this country. It was only a 1-season stay, but they got there. I don't know if anybody's ever managed to visit Northampton before. I've gone up there many times to do some cricket commentary on Northamptonshire Cricket Club. Northampton's quite big. I don't know. It's one of those places outside London that people might not realise are actually quite big, unless you've gone there. So I think the first question I'd ask you, I'll go to you, Pete, is before we get into the the should he not, is this nonsense, whatever. Is it a step up? Let's start there.
I mean, is it a step up? It depends what league they're in. But in terms of the club level, I think Northampton are a much more established club at the sort of football league level than probably could ever hope to be. Could probably about only been in it for a season or two. My understanding is that Andy Woodman can't buy a beer in Northampton if he wanted to, because I think
he's a club legend there.
Yeah. So it, as you said before, putting 2 and 2 together, it makes perfect sense. But I think what the other thing that club offers is a blank canvas to start a new project. Because I think, reading between the lines of what Andy said in some previous recent post-match interviews is, he's talking about walking away from the club with his head held high, having got them into League One, which was always the goal. Well, if in your own head, if you can say, I've achieved that, I've ticked that box, you could sit around thinking, it depends on your personality, but you can sit around enjoying, reveling in that achievement and just sort of seeing what else you can do. Or you can say, right, time for a new project and take it from there. And I don't know one way or the other what's going to happen in the summer, but you could understand if you're sort of a person who's driven by projects and driven by goals, it's sometimes nice to have a fresh sheet of paper and just say, let's start something new, let's build something new. And wouldn't it be great to do it at a place where you're hometown hero near enough already? So that it does come with challenges in terms of, just because you're a hometown hero doesn't mean you're going to get given, maybe you'll be given a little bit more time than your average Joe coming into town, but it comes with its risks, because you could potentially forever sully your reputation in that town if it all goes to pot. But I don't think Andy Woodman's the kind of guy to give that kind of thing a second thought. I think he backs himself 100% to go in and stamp his brand on wherever he is, and that's what he's done at Bromley. And we wouldn't be having this kind of conversation if he hadn't. So props to him. And if he decides to move on, then you go, I think, with just about every single Bromley fan's best wishes. But obviously, love to keep him 10 more years, Andy Woodman, as the crowd sings. But it's going to come down to what his ambitions are, personal ambitions and footballing ambitions.
Before I come to you, Cole, I think just coming off the back of what Pete said there, I think what's also got to be taken into consideration is, and again, people were talking completely hypothetically, if Andy went to a club like Northampton, for me, it's the scale of how they can scale compared to how we can scale. So respectfully to Bromley, League One is our equivalent of getting to the Premier League, right? For a club like Northampton, that's the Championship. Do you see what they would see? Yeah. Or a project for Northampton is, we have a 8,500 all-seater stadium. We're a big town, an hour away from London. We have enough of an infrastructure whereby we should definitely be League One, but with the right manager, we could push into the Championship and have some seasons there. So to me, it's about scales of achievement. And unfortunately, and maybe I'm not thinking blue sky enough here, but if we get to League One, to me, I'm like, right, I have now officially completed all football with Bromley. There's no more football to complete with Bromley. So, whereas I think with Northampton, their dreams and ambitions don't stop at League One. So I could see how that would be a project to take on, in the same way how when Andy pitched up at Bromley in the National League, he was like, I'm going to get this team to League One one day. Do you see? Does that make sense, Cole?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. I kind of see it the same way. I think we have to be realistic that Northampton are a bigger club with us, with a better ground, bigger fan base, and more potential to take them, as you said. He could, the Championship is probably where they've got their eyes on eventually, even if it means going down first. Sometimes that's what you have to do. So we have to be realistic. If we get into League One, is that as far as we can go? I know Robin said that's as far as he can take the club on his own as an owner. And I've got to admit, when I heard Andy's post-match interview after Newport, I thought, there was a definite hint there. I mean, it's 5 incredible years, right? We're on the 5th anniversary at the moment, aren't we?
Yeah.
But East Bromley's potential more than we at Wembley. I'm done. Then we got to the national, then we won the National League, then we won the trophy, then we got into League Two, and every time I thought that's as far as we can go. Surely that's it now. And we're 2 wins away from being in League One. But maybe the way Andy sees it is that's as far as he can take us. And I get that, I could get why he would see that and be looking possibly elsewhere for the next adventure.
Pete, this is the final thing, where do you stand on all that kind of corporate speak and management speak, where it's kind of like, I think I'll throw 2 different things at you here. One, when does a manager in your mind think there needs to be a new voice in the dressing room? That doesn't necessarily mean the manager's got to go, but I more just mean like new voices in general in the dressing room. Alex Ferguson was always big on new cycles. That's how he managed to maintain success at Manchester United for so long. Liverpool used to do it as well when they were dominating the 80s. But then there's also that kind of wider management boardroom speak where you kind of say to yourself, the project was X, I have achieved said project, and you pick the right time to move. I can't remember the phrase that I'm looking for here, but you can stay too long in one place and I guess lose. Like I keep saying to fans who ask me, I always say to them that Andy's stock, if we go up, Andy's stock doesn't get any higher. Of course, if Andy backs himself, he could say, what? League One? I'm going up to the Championship. And that's cool. But as things currently stand across this 5-year anniversary that we record this on right now, Andy's managerial stock will be sky high if we go up. The only question mark I'd have if this Northampton thing has any legs to it whatsoever is whether he should hold out for something bigger than Northampton. But Northampton might mean more to him. I don't know. Everyone's got their own choices. But I guess, Pete, ultimately what my question is at what point as an individual do you think, or how much stock do you put in the phrase, go out on a high, don't wait around for everyone to want you out?
I think in the world of football managership, it's a blessing. It's an absolute blessing to be in a position where you can go out on top on your own terms. That happens to so few football managers. I mean, how many managers have been sacked this season? None of them would have gone into that job thinking, this isn't going to work out. I'm just going to cling on as best I can. They've all gone in there with that mentality of, right, I'm going to set, the bar here. I'm going to get the players to run through walls for me. But little by little, things have gone wrong and it's all been, chipped away at. That can happen to any manager, even a manager whose stock is sky high. So you could understand from just a human perspective, if you're just like, look, I've built this up so high, I don't want to risk crashing it down. My better option is to take a punt on something that's a slightly bigger project, because at least then if I take a punt on that bigger project, if it doesn't work out, at least my stock at the level below is still the same. Where I've come from, they always say be good to people on the way up because you'll meet them on the way back down again. And if you go out, if you take that step up to the next level and it doesn't work for one reason or another, can be completely out of your hands, but at least you've still got that stock at the level below.
Whereas do you know who that reminds me of?
Who's that?
The Cowley brothers. That's what.
Yes. Yeah.
They've kept their stock at the lower end. It didn't work out at Huddersfield, but they've maintained that stock of, these are trusted guys you can go to at this level.
Yeah. And so I think whilst Northampton could well be in League Two next year, that's not beyond the realms of possibility. They are in a very good position to jump forward, assuming it is Northampton. As you say, why not aim higher? Why not, sniff around upper League One and possibly even Championship teams who want to take a punt on someone untested, which is what Bromley did 5 years ago. So it's I can understand it, but also I assume Robin is going to be looking at this project as well, saying, where do I go from here? How do I keep progressing? I'm sure he's got a plan in mind. He's a businessman. But also, he's not running a charity. It's a business, and it needs to keep growing in a stable and manageable way. And when you start paying League One wages, you have to find a way, because the crowds aren't suddenly going to get much bigger. The crowds are where they are. Obviously, you can raise ticket prices a little bit, but you've got to be able to find a way to fund that. And it's going to mean a sort of and perhaps another investor coming in, like Anthony Serafino did last year or the year before. And again, none of these guys are in it for charity. They're all in it with a business mindset of what's the development? How do we develop this? And they will have areas ring fenced for growth. So it'd be interesting to be a fly on the wall at some of these meetings, because there will be a plan. They haven't aimed for League One without one, but it'd be interesting to see what that plan is and how the fan base kind of absorb it. This is, of course, assuming Bromley gets to League One. It still feels like pie in the sky to say that, but as you say, potentially 2 wins away from that goal. So you've got to start having these conversations, and it's the same for, I would assume, for Andy Woodman and other, players in the Bromley squad who've been perhaps getting a bit of interest. They need, from their career perspective, to capitalise on 100%. Their momentum. Capitalise on where they are now. So
Deji Elleraway did it.
He's taken a chance, and all right, he hasn't gone straight into the first team in Lincoln, but he has put himself on a platform where he's probably going to be a Championship player, if in name only, and he's still going to get loaned perhaps to a League One team, or he'll make a breakthrough in their team somehow and be a Championship player. So he's taken a punt on himself, knowing that one way or another he's going to play at a higher level. So
and I think using that Deji example, I think fans just have to remember, if we can accept that a player wants to do it, we have to accept that a manager will also want to do it. And come this summer, there will be some players at Bromley who are out of contract, who are fan favourites, but they may, regardless of what league Bromley find themselves in, some of them, in fact, I could see a situation where some of our out of contract players, let's say you're an out of contract player, and Bromley go up to League One, right? And let's say for whatever reason, MK Dons stayed down. Now, MK Dons then come to you and say, right, what, you're on that at Bromley, we'll treble that. We're trying to get to the Championship. You're probably going to consider that. You'd probably go back down a league and say, wait a minute, MK Dons, and they'll give me 5k a week because I've got promotion from League Two with Bromley. Yeah, I'll have a bit of that, because there's more capacity there to maybe one day do X, Y, Z. So I think people have to understand that there is no conventional way at looking at this. And I think sometimes I feel sorry for people involved in the football world, in that fans put an unrealistic expectation on them of what they should and shouldn't do in the name of loyalty, when we in the working world would leave at the drop of a hat. Quickly at the drop of a hat for a better wage offer at a company that looks slightly bigger but doesn't have the profile, or whatever it might be, right? So I just think football works in a weird way like that. Cole, I'll give you the final words.
You know what? I wouldn't blame him if he does it, but for me.
I missed that last bit. Just say again. Unfortunately, we've had a few. I think Cole's with us, but we had a few technical issues as Cole tried to give. Luckily you're back, Cole. But we missed it. We missed it through the technical issues all the same. But listen, people, we've gone a bit longer with that one. I'm fairly certain that last segment. Andy, if you're listening to this, me a call. But no, listen. Hopefully people enjoyed that. That's been another episode of the deep dive. We've probably got, I reckon we got 2 more, maybe 3. We got 2 more definitely before everything is said and done for this season. So you'll see us again very soon. We got the Easter games, Barnet and Shrewsbury. Possibly you'll see us after MK Dons away. I think we'll kind of know a lot by that point. So we'll schedule in probably for the Sunday after MK Dons. We should know a lot about where this season is going by then. Then we'll come back for the end of the season. Hopefully, we're not in the playoffs.
I can't do it.
I can't. That's what I mentally, I can't actually do it. So hopefully, people, there's only 2 more of these to go after MK Dons and at the end of the season when hopefully it's all done and we're not talking about, guys, you ready for the playoffs? So we shall see, people. Thank you as ever for joining us on the deep dive. I've been Mashal St. Patrick Hewitt. Pete's been Pete, Cole's been Cole, and we'll be back very, very soon. Everywhere we go,